Hello, we're going to do a multi-view orthographic drawing today and talk about how it is a useful part of an iterative design process. So, rip off a piece of trace to start. You can start on a regular piece of paper too, but of course, ideally you have a place where you can lay out and tape down your drawing paper, because if you want to do a layer on top of a layer that you've just started, then it's nice to have that. So I'm going to use a red pen where I would use a pencil, and a black felt tip pen where I would use a black felt tip pen, just because I want the layout lines to be visible in the video. So I'm going to demonstrate a multi-view orthographic drawing just with this cup here. It was sitting on my desk, and it's detailed enough and it has different sides, so it'll provide us with a simple shape. You often will do this sort of a drawing to illustrate something that doesn't exist yet, but I just wanted to show how it works if you've got a model to work from. So I'm going to start by dividing up my page. That'll leave room for multiple drawings to all fit on the same page. And then I'm going to locate the first drawing down in the lower left corner. So I might start by, if I do have a model, getting some measurements from it. And so in that case we have 3.5, a little over an inch, and 2.25 tall. So that'll give me the overall sort of rough dimensions. Did I say 3.5? Yeah, almost. 3.25? Yeah. No, it really is. 3.5. All right. So 1, 2, 3.5, 1.25, and 2.25 tall. Sorry, 2.25 tall. All right, so I'm going to start by just boxing out the overall dimensions. I'm not trying to draw the actual object yet. I'm just laying out the sort of dimensional constraints. We call these our construction lines. This will become more important in just a second as I bring these construction lines all the way through the drawing. So then I would actually just draw the shape that I'm designing. It's got a scalloped top, so that scallop gets closer together as I move to the edge of the cup. That scallop continues across the top, and it looks like it does some sort of dive down there before the curve. Of the handle. Now you'll notice I'm doing the sorts of restatements we talked about in class, where I'm drawing multiple lines. Don't worry about that early on in the design process, because you've always got more trace and you can lay down another layer and do a nice finished drawing. So don't worry too hard. I keep a correction tape or whiteout ready to hand, just because those early drawings can be quick and seeking rather than being too worried about. Now that's an approximate curve, but let's go ahead and check the foot of the teacup. Looks like 1 5/8. So if I pick a center line here, so it was 3.5, so 1.5 plus 1/4, 1 3/4. This is my center line. This is something I might actually draw throughout my designs. What did I say the bottom was? 1 5/8. So 3/4 plus a tick. 3/4 plus a tick. Having things that are dimensional constraints like center lines, things where we tend to have reflected symmetry around them. Boy, that handle doesn't look right, does it? I think I maybe went a little too big on the handle. It's a little slenderer, and it meets the cup a little higher. Something like that. And it meets the cup in a bit of a, kind of swells out a little bit at the joint, probably, so it makes a nice firm connection. Okay, so there is the front view. It's always good to have a title below your elevation. Remember, it's front view for products or mechanisms. Elevation for the built environment, buildings and landscapes. Oops. Right. Just because the different professions have different histories, let's say. Keep it at that. So once I have a front view of my drawing, before, this is step one. Draw your front view. Okay. The reason I put a little circle here is so that later I can put a 1, 2, 3, 4, so I can number my drawings and refer to them if I have something elsewhere that I'm referring to them. Good to get into the habit of giving yourself a title, giving yourself a thing. So a box to draw on, and all of those sort of setting up and closing out things that are in addition to just the drawing. So now let's draw the next two two-dimensional orthographic projections. This is our first two-dimensional orthographic projection. Now I'm going to run extension lines or construction lines across the page horizontally from the key features. Right? Same thing here. I'm going to run them vertically. Right? That saves me from having to do a lot of measurement. If I'm making something up, I don't have anything to measure from. But by doing this, I keep all the drawings together. They're all describing the same three-dimensional physical object. This is the key to drawing in orthographic projection, because unlike a three-dimensional view, where we can show most of the thing we're designing in one drawing, the two-dimensional orthographic projection relies on the collection of several drawings. So if I need to transfer a dimension like the top of the cup here, well, I pulled it up here, but I can also reflect it all the way over here. I do that by finding the center point in the 4 boxes that I drew right there. And now you can guesstimate. I'll show you with a triangle because that way it is accurate. But so you can guesstimate the 45-degree angle and just draw a line through. If you have this type of a triangle, you can use it just to be that much more accurate. So that 45 doesn't actually connect to anything on here. It's just a line of reflection. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we have 2 lines of reflection, and I'll show you how to use them in just a second. So let's go ahead and show those. So, and remember, the red is pencil, so this is all something that will just be lightly on the drawing. So those are my 45-degree angles. I'll often just draw them by hand, by eyes close enough with these initial design sketches. But now we're going to reflect this dimension here, which intersects this line here and this line here. Boy, that doesn't look right, does it? Did I not draw a 45-degree angle? No, that's right. It just is so much higher than I initially drew. Didn't look right. All right. So notice we got a square again up here. So we've taken this square, we've reflected it through, we've taken this dimension, and we've extended those lines and duplicated the dimension here. Now I can do the same thing with these lines as they intersect. As they intersect this diagonal, right? So I'm just pulling these dimensions all the way across, and then I can pull that dimension down, and now I've taken this box here and I've reflected it around my orthographic to this side over here. So now I can draw the side of the cup that I'm looking at from over here, and simply, that's this side. So we have a few of the little scallops on the rim, and then it goes down and up, and a few of the little scallops on the rim, and it goes down and up. It's going to be symmetrical around the center line, so I could reflect this center line through, right? Boop, boop, boop. I could measure it too, but you can just use the geometry of your drawing rather than getting out. Did I lose a little bit there? Should have been there. Nah. Close enough. Okay, so you can reflect the lines through the drawing. This is the center line of the cup, which means this one goes up and down and up. They join the cup in a fairly wide shape here, but it rapidly gets more slender. Is that a little off center? Look at that. It's a little off center. All the more reason to have my center line showing, because I suspect that that's either an accident of hand making or a deliberate little piece of wabi-sabi in the design there. Curve's going to be the same because it's a oh, looky here, this needs to go down. This goes. And that right there is why we draw our construction lines across, because my intuition about how big the handle wasn't correct. So that saves me a little mistake in my drafting. So here's this. Now this point where the where the handle joins the cup, I can reflect it all the way around to locate it. Same thing with this one here, right? That feature, or because this curve intersects that line, as long as I have an approximate shape for the curve that matches, wherever that curve contacts this horizontal line is where it turns down. So there's the side elevation. You'll notice I could add it looks like there's a pattern on here. If I was going to do that, I would switch to a finer pen, and it looks like they're just you can see how even with my very fine pen, those can be very distracting. And then here, instead of those two fine lines, it's two lines that run like this. Okay, so there is the side view, right? The handle side view. And so I would call that one side view or elevation, right? Now, because I'm drawing this to scale, I can put a little note to that effect as well, 1:1. And so then that's my second elevation. The third one up here, that's going to be my top view. Again, just hold it here and turn it. Just like if you're holding an object. If you're designing an object, just imagine rotating the object in space. In this case, because I created these boxes here, and I have those center lines, I know that this is a circle thing. I usually lay out my circles before I draw them. Once there's a circle on the page, you can react to it. And boy, that is a thin rim, isn't it? So we'll show a very thin double line. Now, because because it rotated this way, the handle is here. Notice this line tells me where the end of the handle is. And then if I wanted to, I could pull the width of the handle from here, here, and here. Here it intersects the line, here, and here. That's the width of the handle where it meets the cup. And it simply looks something like that. So there's my handle, moving a little bit to the right. So actually I'd probably see the bottom of it where it shows up right here. So and again, I can show some, whoops, shift to the fine point, and I can show some of the decoration lines if that becomes interesting. I notice as I look at that, there is no line here. I've drawn the line running through, but actually one of the key aspects of this particular teacup is that this line here, that's the kind of a decorative line that runs through the cup, runs down into the cup like it's a leaf. And let's just check and see here. Yep, down and up the other side. Like that. And it looks like there's these patterns here. Follow the contour of the cup all the way around. The cup. So there's the inside of my cup. Label, top view, also known as plan, 1:1. Okay, so that there is the multi-view orthographic. So sorry, that was step 1. Step 2 is draw the other, we'll call that 2A, 2B, is draw your other two orthographics. Step 3 will be to draw the isometric or a natural view. If you're just doing design sketching, you can approximate the three-dimensional view, and that goes up here in the corner. You can, if you'd like, draw a measured isometric, and you'll take the measurements you already have here and you'll reconstruct the thing. Again, you'd have to measure then, because unless you're drawing a very oblique axonometric using this existing rectangle, you could, but it'll end up looking very skewed on the page. So instead, what we tend to do is we tend to draw a new collection of lines. So I'll show you that. Step 3 is the axonometric. Most often drawn as an isometric, which is a 60-degree axis, which is a axonometric with 60-degree axes. So I would start by just drawing those axes. Let's go ahead and drop one on here, and then I can just approximate it like so. Those are the axes for my orthographic. Now, I can, if I want to do this in a measured way, I can create a box that's, what did we say, 3.5 inches? So I can create a box that's 3.5 inches on a side, and draw the cup within that box. In other words, if it's 1 3/4, tick, 3.5, tick, 1 3/4. Tick and tick. So, so I just measured 3.5. So let's take and draw a parallel line down here, and a parallel line up here, and then let's draw a parallel line here, and a parallel line here. So that is to scale with the rest of these. That's the box that defines the outer edges. If I draw verticals here, those verticals will be the sides of the outer box. Notice it takes up a lot more space on the page than drawing your orthographics. It also takes a lot more time. So we said it was 2 1/4 tall. So if I go up 2 1/4, so this is the total box, and I'm running off the top of the page. And I'm running into my picture on the side. Just a second. Okay, so there we go. All right, so once you've created the box that your drawing fits within, you can run a center line through the box. And this is for a circle, and the top circle of the cup will be the ellipse that runs through the 4 midpoints of the lines on the top of the box. Remember the side here, these measurements will all be constant, so I can transfer this measurement here to here, and it runs out, we said, 1 1/4 inches along this axis to here. But of course it curves down away, so it's not going to run all the way out to this line. It's going to get close. I can measure it, or I can approximate it. Same thing here. Here's the side of the cup. Here's the side of the cup moving down. And remember, there's going to be a circle at the bottom that, what did we say? It was 1 5/8 So 1 and 5. So my circle, the bottom foot of that teacup is right here. Now I'm not going to see that, but I will see this corner of it. Let's see, something like that. Something like that. Now I'm going to guesstimate where this comes in. Got a lot of lines on the page, so let's go ahead and leave that really rough and move on to step 4, because step 4 is what happens when you start to get too many lines on the page, or you've made some decisions you're not happy with in your design process. So step 4 then, or you're starting to draw up off the top of your page. Step 4 is to lay down another layer. So again, tape it down if you can. So step 4 is draw another layer. And you'll notice as soon as you start doing that, that the things that were perhaps not great are very easy to fix, right? It took me a little hesitation to find that one. This time I can hit it with a single line. So the resulting drawing will be a lot better, right, than the drawing you just did. Same thing if you have a drawing that is really moving on you, like this one was. It's not quite that big. Something like that. And this has a side. We're able then to and it does kind of have a comes down, and there's almost a secondary line here that runs around. So that'll be something I'll fix in the third view, or in the third iteration of my design. But already that cup that was looking so problematic in my isometric view is starting to look more like a cup. I haven't quite got it right here. We'll have to fiddle with the bottom a little more. If you've got something where you pretty much nailed it, don't bother redrawing it again, unless you're really doing a final version where you've got all of them and you're bringing all of them up, and that's going to be your final drawing. So because I went to the harder one first, I know that this isn't going to be my final because I've got some weirdness in here that I'm going to fix, which means that that I'm going to hold off on redrawing this until I've solved the problems in this drawing here. So at any rate, that's this would be the isometric 1-to-1. This looks bigger than these, but if I set this in front of my drawing, you can see it's just about spot on. Well, maybe I drew it a little too big, but very close. So that's all there is to it. step 1, 2, 3, 4, you're going to end up with a very nice set of drawings. Ideally, your titles would align, so this here should go down, so it's on here, title, title, title. If you'd like, you can bring these boxes all the way through. I guess you'll want to bring it here. And ultimately, that's going to be your multi-view orthographic drawing. So we're going to have all 4 drawn. That was a really, really bad quick one, but you get the idea. Same thing here. You know, you bring this around. Top view, front view, because this is a cup. Side view, 1-to-1. And that's your complete multi-view orthographic. Alrighty.